Hello everybody. I've just got round to doing another video after quite an extended break. I was having trouble getting painting again after a bit of a block, partially due to health reasons. But I was very interested, or I became interested, as we do in these various subjects within the hobby, in the First Afghan War around about 1842. And I picked up a number of figures from War Games Foundry and Empress Miniatures. And oh, there we go. Managed to get some of these little trays recently. I didn't realise you actually had to, well, there's not much construction in them, but I had to actually glue them together, which I didn't expect. Can't remember who did the flags, but I usually get Maverick Miniatures flags, cloth flags, but I was quite pleased with how these turned out. They are correct for the regiments involved, the 13th Somerset Light Infantry. Some of you may remember there's a famous painting of the British regiments had been given supposedly safe conduct by one of the Afghan emirs, and were withdrawing, I think, from Kandahar. I may don't regard me as a reliable history, please, but I believe the forces were given a safe conduct, and they immediately started picking off the British and Allied troops as soon as they'd left their cantonment. And by the end, there was very few survivors. There's a famous painting, Dr. Bryden, the only survivor, on a very blown horse, making his way to the British encampment. I think they were heading for Kandahar, perhaps. But what sort of intrigued me was the fact that I do like colonial wars, the old pith helmets and Zulu wars and Sudan, and I've done those in the past, and I've never been entirely keen on Napoleonic wars, but I kind of grew to like this bell-topped helmeted period of around about the 1830s through to the 1850s, and the one war that's slap bang in the middle of all that I found interesting, partially fueled by a Osprey campaign book, the First Afghan War. And so I picked up a number of these figures, and as I say, I've been quite pleased with them. I wound up with some very shaky hands after, well, taking some medication both for diabetes and multiple health problems, and I looked at my hands on one occasion and they were visibly shaking, and I thought, well, you know, I've not done too badly in the past with painting, nothing to the standard of that is generally shown on here, but quite pleased with my own efforts. But I looked at my hands and they were visibly shaking, and I thought, well, I'm not going to get much out of these. And anyway, with an intense effort of willpower, I managed to get some what I consider half decent finish on the figures. The Empress miniatures were grey coated figures, or dark blue, as I later found out. The War Games Foundry actually had quite a significant range, virtually everything. In fact, for the period in question, and yeah, I mean, you know, for fairly simple efforts, you know, as I say, you know, I was struggling a bit. I don't regard them as my finest hour, but I managed to get them looking half decent, and I was aiming for a few of the scattered units that were you know, basically being ambushed on this evacuation of Kabul, and So I was, kind of pleased with what I ended up with. Got back into the routine, very much so. I managed to knock out about 36 figures over. It was probably a couple of months actually, but as you perhaps might have noticed, the mess the flat's in, we are, in having a bit of a kind of clear out, and got the officers there, and the very recognisable sort of I'm not sure if it was called a Kilmarnock, but it was a bonnet worn by the troops, and with a little facing colour around the base of the actual figure, and I was moderately pleased, as I say, to get them looking half decent in my humble opinion for what I'm used to doing. I also picked up. Sure, if this was can't remember now if this was Foundry or Perry, but you'd probably be able to recognise them. But these were engineers, and they came with a variety of shovels and spades, and picked out in grey service shirts, and again that was 4 figures that I managed to complete in only a very few days. I was quite pleased by the by the end result. It just gave a bit of a contrast to the other troops, mainly in red, of course. I've still got sepoy or sepoy troops to do. I've got a number of figures to do with the British Indian allies, and I was trying to go for almost I noticed with the blue trousers were everything from dark blue through to almost a denim kind of appearance. One chap here with carrying some rope, and I was able to get what I thought was a fairly pleasing effect with a little bit of a wash, and also tried my hand at dry brushing, which these are, look, I'm not being modest, these are humble efforts compared to what some of you chaps out there put out, but I'm quite pleased with them anyway. Yeah, I managed to do 3 stands of these, and they sat there for a little while, and I seemed to go off the boil, as it were, for a little while, and then I began to look further into the Afghan wars, and realised that we'd paid them a visit on a couple of previous occasions, or a couple of subsequent occasions, and specifically the 1880s, of course, which was fairly disastrous. Maywand is a battle that springs to mind. But again, looking for something a little bit different, I happened upon a number of books, and the books that I have, once again, my go-to place is Amazon, and I was able to pick up a number of books on the what really intrigued me was those 1930s campaigns, which we tend to forget a lot about, but they the British were still having trouble in Afghanistan, and the northwest frontier, famous northwest frontier, Khyber Pass and all, and it particularly interested me because there was suddenly a no longer a reliance on cavalry, but there was a very definite opportunity to use air power. And I learned that while the Army and the Navy struggled with Parliament to get funding after the First World War. There was a complete slashing of those budgets. I read that the RAF, the relatively newly formed RAF, had pitched to government the idea that a lot of these incursions, or colonial wars as they were then termed, could be dealt with from the air. The populations could be suppressed. The invading forces could be suppressed by the air, which is very familiar to us now with recent events in Afghanistan. In respect to 1919, I happened upon a personal account, one of these personal accounts of a chap that was over there, and that's written in that very immediate sense of someone who's been through it and has experienced coming face to face with the enemy, and not a ton of pictures in this book, but one famous one which has been often repeated, of an Afghan or Afridi tribesman. Apparently, upon closer inspection, part of the firing mechanism is missing. So that was a clearly posed for the cameraman, but sums up kind of what was going on. But the other one was much more interesting. Although, say I was looking at 1930, already by 1919, this is action at Badama Post, and already by this time there was I was trying to do this. I don't do editing, so I get it wrong or badly wrong from the first effort. This is action at Badama Post, and apparently the Air Force in their operations, which were remarkably successful. I mean, they very often were able to achieve what it had previously took 1,000 or more men and significant casualties to achieve. But on these expeditions, they run up against situations where some of their aircraft were shot down, and they had to send in ground troops to rescue the airmen. And this is one such example. Action at Badama Post, and I've only skimmed through it, but it gives a really nice kind of opportunity if you're of a wargaming desire, which most of us are, although I haven't really got into it fully. But you're looking at aircraft being involved, and you're also looking at armoured cars, and we're talking of the very basic armoured cars at this point. Another book which I will show you, which sums up what we're basically dealing with. They're basically Rolls-Royce or Austins, which have been had boilerplate or similar bolted to their chassis, and what you then end up with is a mobile machine gun platform, and this is the sort of thing. This is a classic example. Now, I actually purchased from Empress Miniatures a couple of their well, they call it the Jazz Age, colonial Jazz Age, it being the 1930s, but they do some quite nice figures, of which I've obtained some, and also a couple of armoured cars. I've got the Rolls-Royce one, and I also purchased the I think it was, I think it says Crossley. I'm pretty sure it was a Crossley, and they were able to suppress a lot of the tribal activity at relatively low cost to us. Again, subject to breaking down and having to retrieve the men, but this went on from 1919 right through to about 1939, when everything changed. But the book that I've got, which has been absolutely first class in terms of use, is British Empire uniforms, 1919 to 1939, and hadn't previously thought about this period in history, but certainly this is a wonderful book. I will show you some examples. It's got everything in it, from the naval forces involved there to their accoutrements, weapons, and as I say, I couldn't find very much on that period, but I've got everything in this book. I mean, they've got right down to the individual equipment, you know, shaving equipment, but I mean, it wasn't difficult to work out what they would be wearing, because it was very much, you know, the outfits of the very latter part of the First World War. But there was obviously some, you know, changes, and this book has been wonderful in terms of giving me an insight into the colours I should be looking at. You know, these uniforms weren't exactly as one coloured as they looked at first glance. I mean, I've got an example here of a Highlander who much to my surprise is quite you know, he's got a fair bit of colour on there. He's got you know, he's clearly got a standard drill grey-blue shirt, but he's got the green, khaki green haversack, and the I suppose that would be khaki drab kilt cover. And you're still able to put a bit of colour in, obviously, at the back of the kilt and at the edges. I've got my my guys picked out as Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders because there was a family connection to that regiment. But the sort of gunboats that were up and down the Yangtze River, for example, although the Northwest Frontier is what I'm going for. The uniform detail, this is the one book that you really want. I would suggest, if you've got any interest at all in the 1930s, this is where you've got to go. So I think I even showed you the wrong photograph, but there you've got your Highlander with the khaki drab kilt front and some green equipment, and he's carrying apparently a large pail of hot sweet tea. And as I say, the book is pretty much a Bible if you're looking at something on that period. And you know, I think we tend to miss out on that period a little bit. We go straight to the Second World War, but it's a wonderful book to have. And I actually purchased, as I say, a number of the figures. I've got a number still to paint. Oh, hello, deserters. But I'll just show you the few that I've not finished them yet, but I've got some here which I've actually started, just blocking in the main colours. But yeah, the oops, come on, slightly starry eyes at this point. I'll have to do something about that. He's looking a bit crazy, but yes, I managed to pick up a number of different ones, and I've blocked in some. This green looks very light now, but it's going to be taken down quite a bit and toned down, I should say. It's all bearing in mind these are nowhere near finished. These are just blocking in colours. I don't know about the rifles. I don't know if anyone knows. I mean, I've looked, and some rifles appear very almost yellowish, the type of wood, but others do seem to be very dark. But yeah, these are Empress figures from their Jazz Age range, and you know, as I say, I've found them very nice to paint and very relaxing, and there's clearly not as much work going to be involved as there would be if you start. Oops, if you started off with you know, some of the other periods, but you know, there's still more than meets the eye in terms of the colours involved. You know, I'm looking at I'm looking at quite a few little subtle changes of shade between the actual uniform and the equipment. You know, so I'm actually quite pleased with those. And now, in addition to that, I should move back here a bit. What I've actually got is show you this now. Sorry, very unprofessional of me, but oh, there you go. There we have it. No, we don't. Sorry, chaps. Not, as I say, really into editing. So what you see is what you see is what you get, unfortunately, which isn't very much. But this is what I purchased for my original outing, which was the First Afghan War. I mean, it says up to 1900, but to be quite frank, for my purposes, I'm going to stretch it through to 1920, even 1930. I didn't want to really purchase too many Afghans in metal, so I've gone for these, and I think they look quite nice. You know, it's certainly going to be serving a purpose anyway, so I'm quite pleased about those. Before I'd actually settled, I also picked up a couple of books on the Jacobite rebellions, not the very well-known 1745, but the earlier 17, I think it was 1714 and 1719. There was other expeditions, but all ended in disaster. But I picked up a box of Warlord Games, fairly generic Highlanders, which again, you know, will serve the purpose as a little representative force, including the man showing his buttocks, which you know, since the Mel Gibson film Braveheart has been the go-to figure of every figure designer. Again, you know, they're just very representative. I also picked up excuse me, as the British forces, Infantry of the Grand Alliance, which you know, take me into the sort of 1714, 1719. You know, I'm going to be able to do those as line, and there's also a facility for a few grenadiers. In addition, I noted that one of the battles, I think it was Glen Shiel in 1719, I think. Sorry, I may be a year or two out with some of these figures, but I picked up some Spanish infantry. These are again War Games Foundry, and you know, they will be painted in white uniforms. There was a small representative force of Spanish infantry, so I'm looking forward to doing those. Something a little bit different when I've finished all of this Afghan War. I also picked up again, I get mixed up with where I get so many different things. You know, the famous Lead Mountain, but there was I think these are War Games Foundry again, British infantry of that same period, with that very curious grenadier cap, which you you know, it's similar to the one that they would have worn in the American War of Independence. That would have been fur, but this is cloth, of which a few examples do remain. And I quite like the style of those, so I went for some of those. I also picked up some figures which again can't, you have to forgive me, terrible preparation, but I picked up a a small number of figures which had been done some time ago, apparently, the manufacturer states, and I think these may have been an offshoot of Wargames Foundry, but by another designer who then left the company. But these are again fairly generic Highlanders, which would do for around about 1705 through to the 45, and one figure in which they suggest is rather like the old British actor James Robertson Justice from the Carry On or the Doctor films that you may remember. And there was only a set of 6 to be picked up, but I had to have them. That classic phrase that we all use. I had to have them because they do have some cracking faces. You know, they're crying out for a bit of paint, and I was pleased to get them. But these are, as I say, apparently they date from about 20 years ago, and a designer who moved on and started on other ranges in different eras. But before he before he went, he did 3 or 4 Highlanders of that early 18th century period, and you know, I had to get them. So I'm going, you know, never really get round to wargaming. I would love to, but I tend to get small forces, just representative forces, which you know, satisfy me that I've actually gone some way to you know, achieving some kind of aim. But I'm pressing on with these interwar figures, and I just will show you finally. Right, here we have the Crossley armoured car in resin. Nice piece there, actually, nice size, with steel wheels. And the other one is I've got a few, a curiosity here, which is some RAF pilots. They're meant to suggest some downed pilots from an aircraft, you know, that had been previously involved in a ground attack role. And these figures, again, Empress miniatures, early 1930s Royal Air Force. So there's a chap on I think that's just a crutch there, but in his flying equipment. And I have another chap. I mean, these would just as easily do for some First World War scenario, in the full leather flying equipment. And we also have a British Indian pilot, Aviator, and there we go, with some presumably Bren gun. But the other armoured car is a think actually I think this is the Crossley, do forgive me, the other one was the Rolls Royce, but this is the Crossley, which double turrets, double machine guns, and you know, quite nicely scaled, really. Yeah, nice piece. So hopefully that'll tie in quite well with the figures. So an example of scale there. There you go. And finally, what I got round to, one of my subscribers, Frank Hammond, I've previously mentioned on another day, I was interested in the film, the Steve McQueen film, The Sand Pebbles, and I'd wound up with some plastic figures from, I think it was Strelets, and I was going to do a kind of, I've previously done the San Pablo, which was a small gunboat involved as a central scene in the film. Some of you may remember this film, I think a lot of you probably do, but anyway, Frank suggested a company called Pulp Miniatures out in Canada, and I sent away before Christmas, and quite frankly I'd forgotten about it, but about 6 weeks or so later I got a set of figures which are American naval figures from the 1920s, 1930s on the China station, the Yangtze River, and you know, I suppose they're a little bit more on the chunky side, but I like that actually. I quite you know, I find I paint better the slightly chunkier figures, and you know, these will be in all white. As I say, if you do remember the film with Steve McQueen, that wonderful all white uniform. Some of them in the other packs, which I won't show today, but some of them have you know, webbing equipment, as you saw at the end of the film, without giving anything away, when they had to rescue the missionaries from the missionary station, in fact. And yeah, I mean, they're everything that you said that they would be, Frank. There is a marvellous selection of 1930s. I can only describe them as, if you remember a film, Rocket Man, a 1930s, almost like a cartoon, really, but the film itself was live action, and it talked about, I think he was ex-army or ex-air force, but he had developed a rocket suit, and that you know, that was quite fantastic, a sort of James Bond type rocket suit, and